No. It can't be right. It doesn't make any sense. Hey guys, Krypt Krusher here. Skylanders made mistakes. I know it's quite a lot to take in, but it's true. Despite my love for the series, not every decision this Skylanders team made was a good one. They actually made some very bad decisions here and there. So over the next few months, I'm gonna rip the hypothetical bandage off and cover some of the mistakes that were made. So, what's today's topic? These things! People often ask me why they stopped making Skylanders games, and I have one big, fat, juicy word for them. Oversaturation. You can only force feed a child so many figurines before it starts regurgitating. There ended up just being too many new Skylanders with each game, and the games were coming out way too quickly. You could tell that Trap Team was the straw that broke the camel's back here. Trap Team has the largest number of collectible things out of all 6 games, and clearly that was the point where a lot of people said enough is enough and stopped buying. And even though Superchargers fixed this problem, since you barely need anything to fully experience that game, the damage had been done, and Trap Team started a decline in sales, which drove the series to its fateful end. What I'm trying to say is that there ended up being way too many unnecessary bits and bobs that you could buy. It just became too overwhelming and people got sick of it quickly. I'm talking about these things! Spyro's Adventure. It has a roster of 32 mostly iconic and fun characters that ended up being staples of the franchise. So when the second game rolled around, an incredible idea was shared. What if we just released the same Skylanders? So that's exactly what they did. 3 of the 4 Skylanders from each element were brought back in Giants as Series 2 Skylanders, otherwise known as Reposes. Really thinking about that name, I can see why they're called that. They're just the same thing as before, but in a slightly different pose. This one has a normal horn, this one has a rainbow horn, this one is standing like this one is standing like that, this one has a child, this one doesn't. What happened, Sonic Boom? Genuinely, if it weren't for me knowing what the Reposes look like, the only way I'd be able to distinguish them is by the colour of the base. If you're trying to get me to buy the same Skylander twice, at least maybe try and make them look a bit different. I think they made these things for 2 main reasons. One, it had been proven from the success of Spyro's Adventure that these toys were serious moneymakers, and they weren't done with those characters yet. Activision knew that they could make even more money from these Skylanders, and so brought them back in Giants. And reason number 2, look at this poster of the Skylanders Giants roster. Pretty big, right? Well, take away the Reposes and you're left with this. Giants had a very sloppy amount of new Skylanders, the lowest of any game, but add 24 already existing Skylanders onto it, and it doesn't look as bad. Okay, I should probably get onto it now. The Reposes aren't the exact same thing. Each one has a brand new move called a Wow Pow. I always saw these as additional soul gems, because they're often pretty cool and powerful. Sadly, they do vary in quality, but it sets them apart from their original version. The problem is, these Wow Pows are the most expensive upgrades, and can sometimes require you to already have certain upgrades unlocked before you can buy it. So this means that you'll just be playing as the normal version for a considerable amount of time before you even get the new move. This is really a problem if you already had the Series 1 Skylander, because the Repose is the exact same thing until you get that Wow Pow. Having access to this Wow Pow straight away would have been a much better idea, but they completely butchered it. Although, one cool thing about the Series 2 Skylanders is that you can play as them in Spyro's Adventure 2. Sadly, they don't have access to their Wow Pows here, but this is still a great feature since you might have a Series 2 of a Skylander that you don't have the original of. I'll admit that this is a pretty good feature. Especially since out of the 26 Skylanders in my Spyro's Adventure roster, 9 of them are from future games. But the WoW POWs and the backwards compatibility does raise a problem for me. The fact that these older characters were re-released with a brand new WoW POW, along with the fact that you could use them in the previous game, made the Series 1 characters kind of completely obsolete. I mean, why play with this guy when you can play as him but better? Getting a repose of a Skylander you already have will make you look at the original version and ask them, what's your value? And seriously, what is their value? You end up questioning why you even bothered to get the Series 1 in the first place. It's just so completely pointless now. This might not seem like a problem to you guys, but I can seriously relate. When Krypt Krusher 2.0 comes out, I'm screwed. And the exact same thing can happen if that Series 2 Skylander were to get a Series 3. That's right, Skylander Swap Force kept the Repose train going, making Series 3 versions of some Spyro's Adventure Skylanders, but also Series 2 versions of some Giants characters, with the Series 3s offering a completely different WoW POW than the Series 2s. And then also, for some reason, Camel got a Series 2 in this game, even though he didn't in Giants. Okay. Luckily, one of the big problems I have with reposes is fixed quite nicely in Swap Force. First of all, the reposes in this game actually look a lot different compared to their original. You can properly tell that these characters are a new and improved version, instead of just having a slightly different pose. And to make telling them apart even easier, the reposes are also given some sort of title before their name. Mega Ram Spyro, Twin Blade Chop Chop, Super Gulp Pop Fizz, Knockout Terrafin. They definitely did a better job of making these reposes feel more special. And to make things even better, each element only has 2 reposes instead of 3 this time. While I can admit that Swap Force handled the reposes way better than Giants did, but does that make their existence acceptable? There are still some reoccurring problems here. First of all, the WoW POWs take ages to unlock, defeating the purpose of even having the new version in the first place. And then there is still the fact that this makes some of your older Skylanders useless now that you have these ones. And just to add on top of that, a Series 3 Skylander doesn't also have the Series 2's WoW POW, which means in some cases the Series 2 is actually better. This is a nightmare. It's like, no matter how hard they try to make the reposes better, the only way to properly fix them is to get rid of them entirely. And we still have another game! Even though Trap Team is infamous for having so many things to buy, when it comes to reposes, it has the least amount of things to complain about. There is only one repose Skylander in each element, minus Tech, Undead and Earth, which really bothers me. Look at how stupid the poster looks. One of the game's files confirms that there was gonna be a Series 4 Terrafin, so following that same pattern, I reckon we would have seen Chop Chop and Trigger Happy as well. But with what we have right now, there are only 5 reposes in this game, and they're some of the best in the series. They all look seriously good and have some incredibly fun WoW POWs, like Fizzy Frenzy Pop Fizz and Tidal Wave Gilgrunt. But despite the fact that I really do like them, Trap Team shares the exact same problems as Swap Force. Every single game, a better version of the same Skylander just kept coming out and coming out, making the versions before it completely meaningless. Granted, you have your WoW POW, but is it really worth playing the exact same character again and again just to get a new upgrade? Luckily, Trap Team was the last game to include reposes. Yes, I know that some of the classic characters were brought back in Superchargers, but they are completely different to the originals. Different movesets, different designs, and thankfully, no WoW POWs. In conclusion, the only worth I see in these things is either to use instead of the original character, which you might not have, or as a way to try out both of the Skylanders' upgrade paths without having to reset anyone. That's it. I understand that making money is important, but these things were one of the main ingredients of the oversaturation disaster. And if I'm being honest, I think the series would have done a lot better without them. these things. Sorry, I had to do it again. Krypt Krusher 2.0 just released. Crap.